single day I'm gonna make something great. That's my way. Every single day I'm gonna make something great. That's my way.
Hey there, Cerise here. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm located in Sosúa, and this is a story from Sosúa shores. You're going to hear some noise in the background of some motoconchos because I'm located right in Sosúa, and it's a motorbike town. It's a great beach town. Come and visit it sometime. So speaking of Sosúa, this is a story from Sosúa that a lot of you may find interesting. So, an American Sankey Pankey. Yes, Sankey Pankey is a word that's generally used to describe a native Dominican who is a gigolo. But we're going to use it in reverse today. And we're going to show you guys that a Sankey Pankey can be anywhere from around the world, and they could be doing it in any country. So, let's do the backdrop. Lockdown begins, and there is a woman who is from the UK, and she lives in Sosúa, and she has a boyfriend here. Now, this boyfriend is American, and she's been with him for a year and a half. She met him here a year and a half ago. She moved here 6 months ago to be with him. She works online, and she found that it was a lot more economical for her to live right here in Sosúa and enjoy the rest of her days with the love of her life. She's 54. He's 38. He's been living here in the Dominican Republic for 10 years. So he is quite Dominican as it stands now. He speaks the language fluently. He works here. And he also has, let's put that on airplane mode. And he also has a family here. She didn't know that initially. So when she met him, she was just so thrilled to be with him. They were spending their days and nights together. So she would never assume that he had a family. All of a sudden, after about 1 month of her being here, he left for a whole entire weekend, and she couldn't get in touch with him. She panicked. She was so worried about what could have happened to him. Finally, he contacts her, and he says that his sister lost the father to her children during the weekend in a moto accident. And now he had to help her take care of the 3 children that she has. Oh my gosh, this woman from the UK was beside herself. We'll call her Cindy. Cindy was beside herself. She was thinking about the 3 children and how young they were and the mother. And she said to him, you know what? Why don't you just bring the kids here to the villa? And then when we can find a place for them, we will make sure that we do that. So that's what happened. They found a place for them. Well, the family moved. His sister and the 3 children moved into the villa for about 3 weeks until Cindy and her boyfriend could find a nice apartment for them. They found a nice apartment for the lady and her 3 children, and that's when Cindy started to think, the woman doesn't look like her boyfriend at all. And he's not Dominican, so how does he have a Dominican sister? So she asked him, is your sister Dominican? And he said, no, she's not Dominican. And Cindy was like, oh, okay. How come she doesn't speak any English and she only speaks French and Spanish? And he said, well, where they came from, it was more French. It's French speaking, and she's been living here for a lot of years, so she learned French and also English. She always spoke. She learned Spanish. So she fell for that. Cindy fell for it. Cindy was just like, okay, all right. And then the lockdown happened. When the lockdown happened, he said to Cindy, he has a choice. he can spend the lockdown with his sister and her children because he needs to take care of them. And Cindy can give him some money so he could buy food for them. Or he can take the kids to her place in the villa and they can stay there for the 25 days of lockdown. And everyone can cook and eat together. She thought it was a lovely idea. She thought it would be safe for everyone involved because she could still have her boyfriend at her fingertips, and if she needed anything, he would be right there. And then she could also keep his family safe. Well, because she couldn't sleep during nights, even in the UK, she would always take sleeping pills. So she would, and he knew this, and she would go to sleep hard from about, 10 o'clock at night. And I think she said to me around 5 o'clock in the morning. That's when she would usually wake up and she would get online and she would start to work. So he knew this very well. But as the lockdown days started to get further and further, she lost out on getting her medication. Her medication that she would have would be usually delivered to her, but EPS was closed when she went there. And with everything being in lockdown, she couldn't go anywhere else. She went to the pharmacy to get some sleeping pills there, but absolutely nothing like the ones that she would get delivered to her from online. She was beside herself. She could not sleep the first night, but she pretty much ended up falling asleep and she was okay. Second night, she couldn't fall asleep. She was worried about everything. She was tossing and turning, and that's when she noticed that her boyfriend wasn't in bed. So she went downstairs to the kitchen because she thought, okay, he must be getting himself something to eat. Now, this is a pretty big villa. She went downstairs to the main kitchen and he wasn't there. So then she went to the other part of the house where his family was staying to check on everything there and to see if he was there, and the door was locked. Now, she never ever left that door locked, ever, and it was never locked for the whole time that she ever knew. She actually forgot where the key was. So now, in a state of panic, she ran back upstairs to her bedroom to look for the key where she keeps all the keys in the drawer. She never remembered giving it to anyone, not her boyfriend or anyone else. And the whole time that she lived there, again, she's never locked that door. So, of course, her heart is panicking. She's worried because it's the middle of the night and she's scared that someone might be breaking in. And all of her worst fears are coming to a halt and she is just in a panic mode attack. She decides that she's just going to go and bang on the door. So she gets downstairs and there's her boyfriend. He's coming out of the door. And she says, why was the door locked? He said, well, I locked the door because, I don't want anyone getting in. And she was like, that doesn't even make sense. No one could get in. Like, we have a huge gate around the villa. And he's like, I just wanted to make sure the kids felt safe. The kids were a little nervous, She was like, oh, okay, with everything going on right now and everything? He said, yes. She said, okay, come on, baby, let's go to bed. So they went to bed and that was it. The next night, she could not sleep at all. She was in half sleep, half dreaming, half sleep, half dreaming. And then she felt her boyfriend get out of the bed. So she decided to wait and see if, he was going to bring up any food or any drinks to eat, anything at all, any snacks. And she would just sit up in bed and talk to him and have a bite to eat as well. But after a few minutes, he was not back upstairs again. So she went down into the kitchen to go see what was taking him so long, what he was making to eat and everything, and he wasn't there. She went to the door again to go to the other part of the house, and it was locked. So So she thought to herself, she's going to let, the kids rest. She's not going to bang on the door. It's in the wee hours of the morning. He must be checking on his family, So she went back upstairs to her room and she decided to find that key. And she looked for it and she could not find it for the life of her. So what did she do? She waited till the next morning. Oh, her boyfriend did come up again that night at around 3 o'clock in the morning. And she didn't say anything to him because, she didn't want him to think that she was insecure. So she decided that she was going to go in his pants pockets to see where the key was. She took the key out. That day, even though everything was in lockdown, she contacted her maid and had her maid go and make a copy for the key. Now, the maid came in very quietly, and the maid actually knew exactly what was going on. And she said to the maid, please, take this key and get it copied somehow if you can. The maid said, it won't be a problem. My brother owns a key place and he lives in the same house. I can go to him and try to get it copied if he can do it. But he can't work right now, so I'm pretty sure he would have to do this for free. And Cindy said, don't worry, I will pay you in food if you need it. And that was it. She went and she got the key copied. Within an hour, she was back at the house. Cindy put the key back into her boyfriend's pants pocket. And that was it. He woke up in the morning because he seemed to be waking up later and later every morning. He woke up later in the morning and around 11 o'clock or so, and he got dressed and everything, and that was it. Now, what Cindy did notice was when he left the basement that same night, like the second night that she caught him, he didn't lock the door. He left the door open. So Cindy thought to herself, if the kids are so afraid, how come they are only afraid when he is there? How come the door is not locked prior to him going in? And how come he doesn't lock it when he leaves? And what is he doing spending time with the kids in those wee hours of the morning? They should be sleeping. So now Cindy starts thinking even deeper. And she says to the guy, I'm thinking about getting an apartment for your family off the villa and on their own, just so they can feel comfortable and they're not scared in the other part of the house. I don't want the kids to be scared. So her first attempt was to get rid of everyone. Just have them go into another rental place. And he said to her, well, I will have to stay with them. And she said, why? Why aren't I a priority for you? Why aren't I someone that needs to be taken care of? I'm in this country. I have no family. And at least your sister has family here. And he said, how would you know that? How do you know that? And Cindy said, well, I know because I know she has a cousin and an auntie. I overheard some of her phone conversations. Now, Mr. Gigolo wasn't aware that Cindy was learning Spanish. And Cindy was listening in on some of the conversations. And she could hear the girls speaking Spanish to her auntie and to her cousin. Now, she wasn't getting the full gist of the conversation because she couldn't understand Spanish fluently, but she was getting the gist of it enough to understand that there was something going on. So, of course, Mr. Sankey Pankey said to her, well, that's her aunt. And, yeah, I got to tell you, that's the truth is the guy that died was my brother. And she's not really my sister, but she's, those are my nieces and my nephews, the kids. And I have to take care of them because she can't go to America. She's not American. So Cindy thought, oh, okay. Well, that does make sense, but still, why is he going into the place every night at that time? So Cindy decided that she was going to do a little of her own investigating that night, which she did. And she decided to wait till the wee hours. She felt her boyfriend leave the bed. And then she went and made her move. But she waited a little while. She didn't go right away. She gave him a little time to get down there and get comfortable. When she opened that door, she was not expecting to see exactly what she had seen. When she opened that door, she saw her boyfriend making love to his so-called sister-in-law. And the kids were in the next room. He wasn't watching over the kids. He was watching over his wife. Yes. Yep. It was his wife and his children. How did Cindy find out? Well, she told him that he had to leave right at that moment. She walked out. She went upstairs, opened the door. She called the police in the middle of this lockdown and everything. She called the police and she waited outside in her garage, locked herself in the garage because she was afraid. Well, the guy said to her, he went to the garage and he's like, "What's wrong with you? Like, don't be like that. Come on out. I'm sorry. Like, I got weak. You don't give me anything." And, like no sex. And Cindy said, "Sorry. The police are called and they're on their way. If you and your family don't leave now, then you will be arrested." And he was terrified because it was before the curfew started. And because the curfew is from 8 o'clock at night till 7 o'clock in the morning. And it was before 7 o'clock in the morning. He went in, but he still left because he knew that she had a point and he had to leave. He went into her house and he cleaned out her freezer. Took everything he could take. Went in her fridge and took out everything he could take there as well. And then took her car and drove. Took off somewhere and left her car. And she doesn't know where he is. She found her car. Her car is found. And it was just down the street. I guess he just wanted to use the car for a safe getaway, a fast getaway. And that was it. He left her high and dry. He left her with no food, very little food. And she has to go grocery shopping again, but it's no problem. But now she has found out during this time that he is the worst Sankey Pankey, and there's nothing she could do about it at all. So sometimes people show their true colors when they have no other choice, a form of desperation. And that's what happened in this case. So guys, now she can't get back home because there are no flights. And that's what she wants to do right now at this moment. She wants to just leave. She's so embarrassed that she fell for such, a-hole type of a guy. And she's also very ashamed because her parents are older and she chose to stay here during quarantine instead of doing it at home. She had a chance to leave to go to the UK, but she missed her spot. She couldn't go because she thought she was going to be in quarantine with him and his family, and then now she doesn't even know when she's going to get out of the country. It's not even like she can leave her house to go to the beach and meet a new man. Now she is stuck in the house alone all the time. She's also very scared right now that he might return in the middle of the night when he gets desperate, because he doesn't have a real viable job. He used to tell her that he was a security guard and he would be at work all night long, and then he would go to her house and sleep during the day. And she allowed it to happen and didn't ask him for any money because she was self-sufficient on her own, self-maintained. Other than that, she would think that, okay, he was home with her all day sleeping. Later on, just a couple of days ago, she found out from her maid that he was with the woman all night. He didn't have a job at all as a security guard. He was with the woman all night long. And she would say to him, Cindy would say to him, how come you have no money and you work so many late hours? And he said, because all the kids take money to go to school, all the food, the woman doesn't work, she has no education. And that's true. You know, he was paying for everything. The mother wasn't working, the mother didn't have education, and he was also taking money from Cindy. And he said to Cindy that it's difficult for him to make ends meet because he was only making $10 a day. And then with private school, and Cindy even said, well, why doesn't she pay for the private school? And so she took that load off his back, but she ended up paying for the private school, for the rent for the woman, for the clothing for the kids. Those kids didn't have it so good before they met Cindy. Cindy was on it. She was one of those gringas that don't stop buying and is always sharing gifts and always being so kind. And you know what? That man, he took advantage of her. And the woman, the wife, she knew that this guy did not want Cindy. And I'm just going to put it straight out there. Cindy's a little bit older and she's, a little bit on the hefty side, very insecure, very vulnerable, doesn't love herself very much, and she's a target. And so the wife knew that. The wife knew that they weren't having sex often. The wife knew that he was with her every single night, not with Cindy. And the wife knew that her husband loved her and he was using Cindy as a form of opportunity, as a form of money, as a form of livelihood, and Cindy was taking care of him. At the end of the day, Cindy knows full well in the UK she would not have been able to find a super duper hero so young and so vibrant and muscular like that, because that super duper hero would be going for a guy, sure, or a girl his age, and he would be working towards a future and stuff like that, in the gym every day. Those guys usually are not, well, I don't want to say, because I cannot say there are gold diggers all around the world, but in general, guys that are hot in the gym around the world are usually guys who really appreciate a woman that's doing the same thing with herself. Us ladies, we know that, right? So when he started to tell her that he loved her for no reason, when she met him a year and a half ago, and when he started to make her feel all special, she keeps saying to me at this point, she should have known better. And you know what? We all should know better at certain times, but we can't beat ourselves up over that. She fell for love. She fell in love. That's not something so bad to fall for. And she didn't put up with it. There are some women who would catch him making love to the other woman, close the door, and not say a word, just so she could hang on to him. Cindy didn't do that. Cindy knew it was quarantine. She knew she was going to be kicking his butt out, and that's why she locked herself up in the garage, because she didn't want them to hurt her. And they probably would not have, because that's not who he was. And the woman has even since contacted Cindy. And the woman wants to see Cindy. The woman wants to work for Cindy, wants to be Cindy's maid. Can you imagine? The woman just doesn't even think about Cindy's heart. But that's okay. Excuse me, that's okay. At the end of the day, Cindy is safe. Yes, again, she is afraid that someone is going to go into her house or rob her. So she's looking for someone that could stay in the villa with her while the quarantine is going down. She's looking for one maid to do that. So it's part of motomaid.com. If, she can have someone go into her house and she feeds them during quarantine and they don't have to worry. It's a win-win situation. And that's it. As long as they're not in groups and as long as the other person stays on the other side of the house and they're only there to take care of her and do some shopping for her. Nothing wrong with that at all. And that's exactly what she's looking for now, because she's terrified. And not only terrified that her boyfriend will go back, but she's scared that the streets are going to get worse and that people are going to get hungry, and that her villa, because it's a standalone villa, it's not somewhere like in Casa Linda. Sorry about that. I turned airplane mode off because I had to re-record. But it's not like she's in Casa Linda. It's not like she's in a closed gate community. It's a private villa off the road. And, you know, she's nervous. But guys, please check me out. And it only makes sense. So guys, I have a lot more other stories that people are sending me, expats and also Dominicans, and they're talking to me about their families. I have 2 stories right now that was sent to me yesterday on Facebook from one Dominican woman who is explaining to me how her stepfather killed her mom. And then I have another story about a man who was engaged to 2 Dominican women. And he is a Canadian. Oh, Canadians. Gotta love my people. Alrighty, guys. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Please check out some of my stories from the past at www.story-time-again.blogspot.com. Let's say it again. www.story-time-again.blogspot.com. There's some stories that might curl your toes. They are stories that people are talking about that has happened in their life, and they want to share a lot of personal information. Thank you for joining me, and you can send your stories Cerise Fairfax at gmail.com. Loads of love, huge hugs, big blesses.